Good morning and welcome to Ask the Security Guy. I am Holly Magnuson and I am here with Shawn Kohrman. Good morning, Shawn.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. A busy day. Got a lot to talk about today. So as a reminder, if you have questions or comments for Shawn, you should see a chat box to the right of the video feed, and just go ahead and type that question in or comment and we will try to get those answered. So we do have a lot to talk about, and we're going to start with a question that we received from a couple of different people about Windows Defender. So Shawn, what do you think of Windows Defender?
Boy, there's a loaded question.
I'm good at that.
So, in preparing for that answer, I wanted to do a little research. And I know Windows Defender's been around for quite a while. Well, it turns out Windows Defender has its roots in an older anti-spyware tool made by Giant Software. They were acquired by Microsoft in 2004, and Windows Defender was released, I believe, in 2006 as an add-on tool. Starting with Windows 8 and Windows 10, it was built in. Now, typically, you don't ever want to run two antivirus packages. Well, what Windows 8 and Windows 10 do through Security Center is they automatically detect if a third-party antivirus tool is installed, and if it is, they disable Windows Defender. So, one of the questions that came to my mind is, okay, why did Microsoft get into the AV business? Well, let's face it. I mean, Microsoft is the predominant platform on the planet, and they're also the biggest target for malware and spyware and viruses and Trojans and all those good things that make my life interesting. On the flip side of it, Microsoft adopted the approach of it's better to have something than nothing. And if all of their computers are protected with at least something basic, it's better than if they're completely unprotected. To the question of, okay, well, how good is it? Well, in a review this year done by PC Magazine, they weren't exactly too kind to Windows Defender in respect to other, mostly free antivirus packages that they were comparing to. But they did point out a few key things. One is it's built into Windows 8 and 10. And it actually scores in some categories pretty well in independent labs. It runs a poor score with malware blocking and a so-so score with malicious URL blocking. It actually does pretty well with phishing URLs. And there's some evidence to support that it does file execution checking and ActiveX controls and a few other types of checking reasonably well. So as far as antivirus tools that are hooked into your browser, Defender only works with Internet Explorer and Edge, oddly. Doesn't work with Chrome, doesn't work with Firefox or Opera.
Sadly.
If you're out there on the Opera family.
If you use a real web browser.
I'm just saying. Because me, I don't ever recommend people use Internet Explorer or Edge for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest which is actually built into the operating system and hooked into the OS. So from a virus standpoint or a Trojan or something that's going to sideload through a browser extension or something like that, it's a shorter path directly into your operating system instead of going through multiple layers. So there are a number of other tools that have browser extensions that are linked to the antivirus program that's installed in your computer. Avast, I think Komodo has one. AVG, I believe, has one. Panda, I think, has one. And those are all in the free category. Now, if you go into the paid category, the one I personally recommend a lot and that I use personally is ESET. And that's ESET. They have a mobile antivirus scanner that's fully cross-platform, as well as Windows and Mac. But that's in the paid realm. and it's an annual fee. So to go back to the original question, is Windows Defender a good antivirus? I would say it's better than nothing, but not by much. But again, in the security world, something's always better than nothing. So even if you're just using Windows Defender and relying on it, that's a level of security that you've adopted that is truly better than not having any at all. Would I recommend it over any of the free antiviruses that are out there? No, I would not. It's worth the time and effort to explore which one would work for you. If you're capable and willing, I would recommend one of the paid versions of either the free ones that are out there, or like I said, the one I've recommended as well. So,
and can you give us an estimate of what like an ESET costs a year, kind of, so we look at that as?
I bought a multi-device pack, and I think it cost me $60 a year. But that handles 3 computers, and it's a total of 5 devices. They originally had it categorized, but anymore they just look at devices. So that will work. That'll cover your computers, your tablets, your smartphone. For me, it works well. Others may exceed that count or be below it and have unused licenses sitting around. They have single device licensing as well. But from what I've seen, it's really cheaper to get the multi-device pack.
And these days, if you have a family, you've got multiple devices in your home.
Usually you have multiple devices per person now.
Yeah, I wasn't going to say that, but yes. I don't want to even think about how many devices I have.
Yeah, realistically, if you look at a home with, say, 3 people, 2 adults and a child, depending on the age of the child, I mean, you're going to probably have 2 or 3 devices per person. In some cases, maybe more. Because you're going to have laptops, home computers, tablets, phones, and a variety of other things probably. And they're all entry points. That's the thing is, when we talk about device security, really the ultimate edge, from a security consideration, is the user. That's the single most effective point of entry into any organization's network. It's through the user themselves. And we talked about that in our security awareness training. It's social engineering. They click on a phishing link, or it's an in-person attack, or it's over the phone, or even snail mail still. I mean, there are still very successful social engineering attacks that are conducted via regular old U.S. mail. So there's a variety of attacks out there. But again, when you really back out from a security perspective to the hardest to crack into to the easiest, for most organizations, and this isn't universally true, but for most, they've pretty well hardened their infrastructure, or they've taken steps to have a higher level of security within their servers and their networks and their internet-facing side than they do on their computers that sit on people's desks. So it's a point of awareness. No antivirus is going to protect you from everything. You have to be the first line of defense. And that's just awareness. Know what you're clicking on. Before you click that link, just hover your mouse over it and see if it goes where you think it goes. Read the news. I mean, there's a variety of tools that we talk about in our security awareness training that can really, nothing's going to ultimately prevent things, but you can radically decrease your likelihood of being a victim by taking some few basic steps. I mean, what's the most common one we talk about, Holly?
Well, the phishing emails, account being, your account being deleted if you don't, do something, or this great attachment, I've sent to you, and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Was that what you were looking for?
Well, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, we see a very high volume there, but it really boils down to strong passwords
Hmm.
because the single gateway that really circumvents all other security controls now, especially in a cloud environment that we live in, is your username and password. That's it. If I've got that, I've got access to your stuff. So if you're using the same password on multiple sites and someone gets a hold of that, off they go.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, but where that has played a huge role in certain presidential candidates' life. But before we jump ahead, uh,
So yeah.
so Windows Defender, better than nothing,
Mhm.
but there's a lot of better tools out there that will give you more protection.
Yes, definitely so. Yeah. Like I said, and it is better than nothing.
So,
Arguably.
so far, no questions. If you do have a question, you should see the chat box. If you had the same problem I did and got an error message when you tried to type in a question, go ahead and refresh the screen, and that fixed it for me. So again, if you've got any questions about Windows Defender or antivirus in general, go ahead and you can put those in. But in the meantime, I have to tell you about my son's, not rage, but rant last night about the commercials on TV. Specifically, the ones advertising Christmas sales and Christmas.
Yep.
He is very much his mother's son and feels like that, Christmas needs to start the day after Thanksgiving, not the day after Halloween. So, as we try to always do in November, heading into the Christmas season, is talk about protecting ourselves when shopping, whether it's online or now even in the stores.
Yep. Yep.
So, Shawn, what's your number one piece of advice for shopping during the holidays?
It's funny, Holly, because in the past we've given really specific instructions about safe shopping online, and then we sort of assumed that the shopping in person was going to be safer. Well, over time we've seen that it isn't because the Target breach and the Home Depot breach and all these large vendors being breached in their point of sale terminals in the store, where you swipe your card or now insert for the chip. Basically, if you go to a store that's where you have to swipe your card, worry. If they're asking you to insert the card for the chip reader, there you're a little safer. But a general rule of thumb, and I tell people this all the time, when you're shopping especially for the holiday season, use a credit card that has a low limit. Don't use your ATM or your debit card that's associated with your bank account. Even though it's more convenient, if somebody gets a hold of that data, if there's a data breach that you have no control over, somebody could potentially get access to everything that you have. And for a lot of us, I mean, let's face it, we live paycheck to paycheck, for a lot of people. And, having something like that wiped out would be devastating. Whereas with a credit card, at least with the credit card companies, you have a remediation path with the card company, and it doesn't impact you directly. There's a little bit of a buffer there. So just look for merchants that are going to ask you to insert your card for the chip. If you find merchants, and there's still quite a few out there that haven't converted over, that are requiring you to still swipe the card, review them with a lower degree of trust. Because the security controls around the chip are a bit higher than for the swipe. Now, just bear in mind, not a lot higher right now because of the way the U.S. rolled that out. It's not as secure as it could be. And it's certainly not as secure as it is in other countries. But it's still an improvement over the swipe.
Yeah, and it still kind of boils down to monitoring your credit card activity, monitoring your activity, knowing those charges that you see, are they really your charges?
Right. Yep.
Um,
And I mean, Credit Karma, freecreditreport.com. I think it has another name now. But you know, there are plenty of free services, and actually your credit card company and your bank, in most cases, are already offering free credit monitoring through your online account. So it depends on which service you're with, but from what I've seen, a lot of banks and a lot of credit card companies are offering free credit card monitoring or free credit monitoring now.
Yeah, I think both, yeah, I've got a Capital One, a Chase. I think they both are now, and Discover, though I don't use them, they're offering it. So yeah, I think more and more um, they want to help us out by giving us that information.
Well, it's in their best interest. It saves them time and money. And then all of them have various fraud alert tools that you can enable. So if you log into the website for your credit card company or your bank, there are going to be a list of fraud alert tools there that you can enable. Take a look at them. If you have questions about them, call customer support and ask what they are. They all operate a little differently. That's why I don't want to get into specifics about each one. But I've looked at several, and the tools they're offering, they're still reactive. There's something happening to trip those off. But it's a much shorter path from it happening to you being aware than would normally be the case. So it gives you a better chance of identifying some malicious activity and resolving it right away before it becomes too impactful.
Yeah, and I've been trying to be better, about monitoring what's on my card, because there's only a couple of cards that I ever use, and so it makes it really easy if I get a bill from a card that I've not been using and there's a balance, it's an immediate red flag, which thankfully has not happened.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, cash is still king.
Mm-hmm.
But there's an inherent risk of carrying cash.
There's a risk there's a risk in everything we do.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of what we talk about is risk management at a personal level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't dictate, what's the best or what's the least. But what we try to discuss here is various tools that are available to you to help reduce risk overall.
So, any other thoughts about shopping during the holidays?
Find sales.
Yes. I would say my favorite color is purple. But anyway, moving on to our third topic, and the one that is probably going to be the most interesting is an article that I came across a couple of weeks ago, the top most damaging breaches of 2016, which I think is a little premature because we've got 2 months left, so anything can happen. But Shawn, would you like to share with us this list?
Sure.
And your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So there have been a lot of breaches in 2016. And what's interesting about this list that you found, Holly, and I verified a lot of it, was that they went for the approach of not the biggest, but the most damaging. Now, the most damaging takes a variety of contexts. So just let me put that out there now. Damaging can mean a variety of things with this list. The first one that we have on the list is Snapchat. Snapchat had their human resources infrastructure breached, and all their payroll data went out into the wind for all of their employees. So as you can imagine, that didn't go over well. But they're dealing with it, and they've notified, and they're working with their employees to remediate. Now, what you got to give kudos to Snapchat for is they found it within 4 hours and stopped it.
Wow, that's impressive.
So that's actually one of the better turnaround times we've seen in the last couple of years, because a lot of these breaches went on for months or over a year. Next on our list, Wendy's. They had their point of sale terminals breached. Originally, they said it was 300 stores. Turns out it was about 1,000 stores. And you can actually do a little poking around as to which actual stores were affected. And I know the one right across the street from where I live was part of this breach. Fortunately, I don't eat there. LinkedIn is our next contestant. This breach actually didn't happen in 2016. I think it went back to, let me see. It went several years back. But they initially claimed that the breach was only about 6.5 million users.
Only 6.5.
Only. Well, yeah, I mean, round numbers. Later on, and that's what happened this year, was they revealed that actually the breach was about 117 million. So, yeah, it's something to be concerned about. If you haven't gotten a notification from LinkedIn to change your password or stuff like that, it'd be a good time. Just saying. Next up on our dubious list of honor here, Minecraft. For any of you out there who like playing Minecraft and play on Minecraft servers, I know my son's a huge fan. I know several adults who are as well. They had a breach as well. And it was related to weak hashes, for the way passwords are being stored. So the breach happened in January 2016. Shortly thereafter, usually they did, well, they say they didn't notify or learn about it until late February. That's where sources vary as to when they knew about it. But they've already taken steps to remediate it, and they've forced a password change on all users when they log in. The new password storage is supposedly much better and more secure.
Let's hope so.
One can hope. So the next one, and this is actually decent sized, was Verizon. Let's see, contact information for about 1.5 million Verizon customers, and the data breach was priced at $100,000. However, the seller offered to break up the list of accounts he stole into 10,000 record chunks for $10,000 a piece. Now, do the math, dollar a hit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that one's been interesting. This is I'm going to not name the site out of deference to our institution, but it was a pornography site that was breached. Names, address, emails, billing information. And the data that was breached there contained about 790,000 unique email addresses. Enough said.
Moving on.
Moving right along. Dropbox.
Next up, I'm sorry, which one?
Dropbox. So this one went back to 2012, but it wasn't until 2016 that we really understood the scale. Roughly about 68 million accounts. Now, as you know, I'm not a huge fan of Dropbox anyway. This really not helping.
Yeah, I can't wrap my brain around it, why it took 4 years to figure it out.
I'm going to refrain from comment.
I knew you would, so we'll just move along. Next up.
So the next one up is the law firm of Mossack and Fonseca out of Panama. And they apparently were a very quiet law firm for a variety of world leaders and other reasonably visible figures in the political arena. Their breach exposed a number of confidential legal files, and so far is being attributed to at least one world leader stepping down from office.
Impressive.
Yeah. Which leads us to our next contestant. The Hillary Clinton campaign was breached as well. and also had a variety of laundry exposed. Whether it's clean or dirty laundry, I leave that to you to decide. I am not going to enter into a political discussion on this, but it is worth noting that one of our presidential candidates had their entire campaign systems compromised.
And didn't that one go back to the person using the same password for multiple systems?
That was one of the ways. They also got into their Twitter account through that same mechanism, yes. To one of the Twitter accounts on the campaign staff.
So again, that reminder, different systems, different passwords.
Yep.
Because if one system, because it can happen. Somebody gets breached, or but if you've got the different passwords, it keeps your other stuff safe or safer.
Does. The more barriers you put up, the harder it is for an attacker to get into your life, and the less attractive you become as a target. And that's really where you want to be. You don't want to be low-hanging fruit. I'm not calling anybody a fruit, but
Yeah. And moving on.
So, lastly, and Holly, you'll love this one. Our good friend Yahoo.
Yes. They're kind of ranking right up there with Dropbox.
Yeah. So estimates are suggesting about 500 million user accounts. Then details came out that they were cooperating with the government and various federal agencies on email surveillance programs, with or without proper authority to do so is uncertain at this time. Yeah. It also kind of put a few deals sideways, business venture sideways when this breach came out. And again, tarnished an already tarnished name.
Yes,
so
sadly.
Yahoo was, it is actually really sad. Yahoo was one of the earliest out there in the search market game. And so they've got a lot of history. Unfortunately, their security practices and the way they take care of users' data is more than a little dated, it would appear. So, and as much as we seem to hope that they are revitalizing their security infrastructure and doing new things and better things, the news still keeps coming every year. And they keep showing up in the headlines. And
they're not the good headlines we want to see.
No, they're not.
No company wants their name that way.
Yeah, they certainly don't want to be in my headlines. So that's our list so far this year. Let's face it, year isn't over yet.
Nope. And next month in Ask the Security Guy, we're going to take a look back because if you watched the January episode, you saw that Shawn made some predictions on things that we were going to see this year. And in December, we're going to take a look back and see how good was his crystal ball, and have some fun with that. We also, in December, will be doing our Hangout with IMT at the computer store during the Christmas sale. Don't have a date for that yet, so watch the email for that, because hopefully there's going to be some fun and some giveaways, and you can come by the computer store and and play the Christmas theme. Well, I don't know if it's themed Christmas themed trivia questions, but you can have some fun hanging out with Dante and I.
Right.
And if I can plug one more thing, Shawn, our new web series that Dante and I are doing called Cool Tools. We just released a new one there and stuff, and so we'll probably send out an announcement maybe next week because we'll have a couple of new episodes out. But if you go to YouTube and search APU Cool Tools, you will find the channel, or it'll be in the show notes as well. So we're excited about that. And Shawn, what is your favorite tool? Technology tool.
My favorite technology tool. I don't know. I think it would have to be my Android phone.
Okay, well, a little more specific. It could be an app on your Android phone.
I really like Asana for task management. And oddly, I love Google Keep for just little notes that I have to remember.
So yeah, so maybe we'll have you on Cool Tools, and you can talk about why you like those tools.
Thanks for the warning.
So with that, we've not had any questions, but for those of you who've been watching, thank you. You can always, if you do have a question, security-related question, you can email iso@apu.edu, and Shawn and I will see that, and we'll get you answered. And until next time, Shawn, have a happy Thanksgiving, since we won't be on the air again until after Thanksgiving.
Nope. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.